Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on? Welcome to your WWE Monday Night Raw review for August 17th, 2020. This, of course, was the go-home show to SummerSlam, which is coming up in just 6 days on Sunday. And I got to tell you, man, WWE continues its trend of not really coming through with really good go-home shows. Remember back in the day when we used to look forward to these shows, to these Raws or whatever prior to a pay-per-view, especially a big one? And, more often than not, they kind of shit the bed. This was not a very good Raw, in my opinion. I don't know what everybody else thought of it, but I thought the first hour really was dragging hard. Felt like a chore to watch it. There was a couple of parts on the show that I did like, a couple of things that I did think they did well, and a couple of matches I even liked. And I liked that, at least from a creative standpoint, they kind of were tugging me in a couple of different directions because I have a whole bunch of ideas about, Retribution and people like Samoa Joe and Zelina and maybe a lot of twists and turns all tied into this random "you'll never see it coming" tagline at SummerSlam, and kind of keeping my fingers crossed that we do get some sort of major surprise or major swerve or something coming up on the pay-per-view this weekend. But I am giving the show a pretty bad grade. I'll figure one out as we talk about it here, but I think we've seen better Raws in recent weeks, and I think last week was much better than this. What did you guys think? Bad, good, in the middle? Give me your grades on it, because I certainly don't want to be too hard on the show. But I didn't feel like, didn't have me on the edge of my seat tonight. Let's put it that way. But hello to everybody that is here. Good to see you, Madeline. Welcome back, King and Sunny Man, Kyle, Zane, Jet the Hawk, Mike, Deshaun, Trey, Liam, Zaya, Mab, Sunny Man. I think I got you already. Thomas, Dominique, and Ronnie Matthews, all here so far. Thanks for hanging out tonight. One good thing about this show, I will say right off the bat. Can I be heard? Yo. This was the last show at the PC for the foreseeable future, from what I'm hearing or what we're hearing. I guess it's like November or something like that, but WWE is moving all TV production over to the Amway Center in Orlando, which is a much bigger arena, and it allows them to do a lot more things, and that's going to kick off this Friday, I believe, live for SmackDown, and then take over in SummerSlam, and next Monday's Raw will all be there. And based on the reports that we've been reading, this is going to run through a minimum of November, and potentially even longer than that. And I think that's great news, because we saw the big announcement earlier today from WWE about the debut of Thunderdome. That's what they're calling it. They are really going over the top, it sounds like, with their production, and I think that's good. I think that we need some sort of change of pace. The Performance Center, I think, was just there. It's a good thing they had it to produce TV, but that was not going to work long term. It didn't even really work short term. Made things really difficult to watch. And I at least got to say, I know we have a ton of problems with WWE with literally almost everything they do, but they are really making a solid effort here, it sounds like. I mean, they've spared no expense. They have really, sounds like they've gone over the top. And whatever we're going to witness and start seeing on Friday in that arena with the dome, apparently there's 2,500 LED boards lining the ceiling and the roof, and all that's going to go around going around the stadium. They're going to do all sorts of other production stuff that would rival something like WrestleMania. They want to do like a WrestleMania level production for every single show. They've talked about pyro and lasers and effects, and it really sounds like they're going to do whatever they can to make the viewing experience as best as possible for the viewer. Now, I don't think it's going to be a home run right off the bat. I think it's going to spark a lot of interest at first. I think it's going to be really cool to see what they have in mind, but it might be a work in progress, just like the Performance Center was. You know, how we saw them shift the hard cam and things like that. So maybe even this setup is going to have some room to improve, but it sounds like they have really thought it out and really planned it well and spent a shit ton of money, which, to be honest, they can afford based on those Q2 earnings. So that at least is good, because the fans are really up WWE's ass and on their case a lot for, all these shows suck. I know it's a COVID and a pandemic, but you have to at least try. So it seems like they're damned if they do and damned if they don't. I've seen a few fans already commenting on this, that it's going to look stupid and shit like that. I'm like, it's going to be better than what we have. And if WWE was going to sit there and do nothing and continue to do everything from the PC, we would be complaining that WWE's not even trying. Here, they're not only trying, they're moving arenas, bigger venue, spending a shit ton of money to try to get COVID-era shows as entertaining as possible. And with everything that they're implementing, a lot of the effects, the pyro, the LED boards, the virtual fan experience that apparently is also going to be there, and a lot of other ideas that we might not even know about until we see it live. I think that's promising, and it just depends. You know, like I said, I think this weekend's going to be really fun because we don't really know what we're going to see. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday should be a blast, even next Monday on Raw. But it might grow old. You know, you never know. We might see it for a few weeks and say, okay, this is much better than the PC, but we'll wind up falling back into that rut. And by the time we get to the end of the year, we are sick of the Amway Center. So it just depends. I think it could kind of go either way, but at least, you know, based on everything we saw this weekend with all the production trucks rolling into Orlando and WWE, and a few photos being leaked too of inside the arena of them beginning to assemble this enormous monstrosity that they're putting together. I think it's going to be interesting. You know, they might have a chance here to step ahead of AEW in this regard, because I've been heaping all of the praise on All Elite Wrestling for how they've handled the COVID stuff. I thought they've just done a better job at it. They've got Daly's Place, which offers them a little bit more room to move around, spread their wings, and things like that. And for the most part, I feel like AEW's been writing the book on pandemic wrestling. WWE might have flipped the script here on them, and we'll see how it looks this weekend. But I'm at least looking forward to it because we need something. You know, I mean, Jesus, it's SummerSlam time, and WWE TV is drawing the lowest ratings in their history. Clearly, you know, this pandemic is doing a number on the wrestling business, so at least WWE is a company that has the resources and has the money to go out and do something crazy to try to enhance that experience, where other companies might not, especially smaller ones and independent ones, aren't really going to have the ability to do that. And WWE does. So we'll see. All in all, I'm glad the PC is at least done for now. And aside from a couple of trips back there, you know, here and there, I'm hoping that we're kind of done with that place for a while. I'm tired of it. I'm sure the talent is sick and tired of it. It's probably cramped as shit in that little place. So now that they get to go to a big arena and all of that, I just hope it not only works out well for the fans, but works out well for the talent, the staff, and everybody there, just for their own damn sanity. But should be interesting coming up this weekend. What do you guys know about it? What do you think about it? What are you expecting out of it? Think it's going to be good, bad, whatever? Let me know. What's going on, JC? What's going on, Reese? Good to see you. Mulate, Mike Maxon, JC, Follow the Dream. Some new ones in here. What's up, Antoine? Appreciate the $5, dude. Good to see you. I feel that this is going to be great, and getting a bigger venue creates social distancing, and I also feel Roman is coming back. Just a feeling. I've been thinking about Roman too. You know, I've talked about him in recent weeks, thinking that, you know, it's no safer now than it was when COVID started. As a matter of fact, it's more dangerous now. More people have this thing. It's still spreading like crazy. And if he came back now, it would almost defeat the purpose, I think, of him not performing in the beginning. You know, he just left, and so I think he should just stay gone until he feels comfortable. But yeah, if they are going to a bigger venue and they're taking all the necessary precautions, you know, with their testing daily and all of that to all their staff and all their stars, you know, he could come back. And I don't know if that would be something that would happen as soon as this Sunday, or if maybe they hold him off or something. But I do think that we're going to have to see something special, some sort of surprise, some sort of a return in some form or fashion on one of these shows, especially SummerSlam, since they're kind of hammering that you'll never see it coming shit down their throat. They better give us one thing that we didn't see it coming, or that we didn't see coming, if that's the tagline of the pay-per-view. So I'm expecting some surprise, and maybe that's it. I mean, maybe it's really, really, really extreme. Maybe Roman Reigns is the one that's leading up Retribution. You know, maybe it's a huge swerve that we really, literally didn't see coming. I think that would be really fun. I don't care what it is, as long as it just makes my jaw hit the floor. Whatever you want to do, just do it. Just make us excited, keep us surprised, that sort of thing. All right, what's up, Spaz? How you doing? Good to see you. Thank you for the $5. Hey all, here to show some love for my friends Guapo and Ruffin this Thursday on Facebook Live, the first episode of Wednesday Night Wrestling Show. On Thursday? I'm kidding. I get it. Probably reviewing both the shows, AEW and NXT, correct? Speaking of Thursday, now that Spaz mentions that, and thanks again, Spaz, I'll be up here on Thursday for NXT TakeOver 30 and SummerSlam predictions. We'll do a live stream. I'm going to come up at 5 p.m. local time for me here on the West Coast. That'll be 8 o'clock on the East Coast here in the United States. I'll put up a link here probably tomorrow for that. So we'll do predictions on Thursday night. On Saturday night after TakeOver, we'll be up here for a review. I'm not sure yet still if I'm going to get into Dynamite or not. I'm going to play that one by ear. I might just eyeball Dynamite, but not watch it, and just maybe mention a couple of things about it and not give you a full review. But the majority of that episode on Saturday is going to be all focused on NXT TakeOver, because I think that's going to be a really good show. And then, of course, on Sunday, we've got SummerSlam, and I'm just excited to see what happens. I think the card here looks decent. I think it would be better if there was no pandemic and shit, but I still think WWE has a chance here to give us a good pay-per-view, and we'll be up immediately after the show to review that. And then, of course, a week from today, we'll be up before Raw as well. So you get me a grand total of, 4 days this week? Tonight, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then 3 days in a row next weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. A lot of me. So get ready. Hopefully it's a fun week. It's going to be a busy week. We know that. Hopefully it's fun. But based on tonight's Monday Night Raw, I'm not 100% sure how fun it's really going to be. Hey, there's a good one, Ty Woods. I like that. Otis cashing in. Who is he going to cash in on? Braun? That would be nuts. I don't know if I can see it. I can't see a champion falling to Otis right now. I can't see him crashing in on Orton or Drew. They'll whoop his ass. I'm not sure about Fiend and Braun either, but I'd be into it. I mean, it might be a big night for Otis and Mandy. Mandy's going to be cutting, I'm assuming she's going to be cutting Sonia's hair. And if Otis has a belt and wins the world title on top of that, they're going to have some pretty, they're going to have a pretty wild night, I think, the two of them. That's true, and we would never see it coming. Yeah, we're going to talk about a lot of possibilities for Sunday, because I really think they could do a lot. And there's a couple of things I was writing down here in my notes for Raw. And I was like, oh, they could do this, or they could do this, or they could do this. If they do any of these things, I think it would be somewhat surprising. So, I'm into it. What's up, Spaz? Thanks for 5 more. Every time HBK's hat falls off, we all age 20 years. Yeah, he is not the sexy boy anymore. Boy toy, he is not. He's looking like my grandpa. But that's what getting old does. I'm in my 40s now, so I ain't far behind Sean. I just think for the first time in my life, I might have him beat in the looks department. All right, that is about it. Oh, Victor Colon, thank you for the $2. I appreciate it as well. I think AEW is airing on Saturday night at 6 instead of Wednesday. Yes, we talked about that this week. That was announced in the last couple of weeks. So they're going head-to-head with TakeOver. So that'll be fun, just to watch how that affects TakeOver and how they affect each other. And I'm curious to see what WWE is going to draw for NXT this Wednesday when they run unopposed. That ought to be fun, too. All right, let's get into Raw, because I'm not going to spend too much time on the show. I can already tell we're probably going to have a low audience tonight. People were not kind to the show at all on social media, or at least on Twitter from what I could see. And, there's just not a whole lot of substance here. A lot of speculation, a couple things we could talk about, but, overall, just not a ton. Let me get my notes over here to the screen where I can actually read them. Come on over here. There we go. All right, let's kick things off. And by when we get to the end of the show tonight, we will get into a little bit of the Sonia Deville news, which broke yesterday. Home invasion involving Sonia. She got away. They arrested the piece of shit that broke in. And it's pretty infuriating when you kind of read the story and realize just how fucked up male wrestling fans can be. But if I'm going to rant at all, we'll save that till the end, because I want to talk about Raw first. Show kicks off with a recap of last week. Drew McIntyre comes out to the ring to cut a promo. The announcers, right off the bat upon joining us, start letting us know about these technical difficulties. They've been experiencing problems all day, so we knew that's retribution related. McIntyre's in the ring, calls Orton a bunch of names, calls him an asshole and all that. And basically, like, right off the bat, after Drew threatens Orton a little bit, I'm going to hurt you real bad at SummerSlam, that kind of thing. Just a couple of minutes in, we start getting the technical difficulties. One of the cameras is, like, turned over sideways. It keeps going to the Raw graphic. It's just all glitchy as shit. And the only thing here that they did right about it, I think the announcers at first were mentioning it, but then as the glitches continued, you could still hear Drew in the background. It was like Drew didn't recognize the technical difficulties, which was cool, because if he would have, and he would have known from in the ring, and he would have been talking about it, it just adds to how fucking fake it looks. So I think that they did a good job with Drew continuing to talk about Randy Orton, but you couldn't see him. The volume was really low. Glitches started to happen, and then boom, they just cut to commercial. Instead of having Phillips and Saxton screaming about the difficulties, this must be retribution, blah, 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 and all that. Like, it felt, if they were trying to pass it off as real, at least it kind of felt a little bit more like that than what we're expecting from them. So anyway, they just cut to commercial. When they come back, then it gets immediately silly. They do something that I think is kind of good, and then as soon as they come back from commercial, it just gets dumb. So Retribution then storms the production truck. They go in the back, and the production truck is loaded with lit up computer monitors, computer screens, TV monitors, shit like that, soundboards, everything, all this equipment all lit up. They go in there and they smash every single unplugged monitor that they can find. Every single TV screen that they picked up wasn't even on. They were just smashing. It was probably all fake shit anyway, probably like fake laptops and things like that. So they're just destroying everything, but they're not really. If they really wanted to do damage, you take a baseball bat and you just start smashing, because it's just a video wall, of just all of the monitors. Just take a bat to it, start bashing the sound equipment, pour water on it, electrocute everybody in there, set the fucking trailer on fire, something like that. But instead, they're just smashing these prop laptops, and it just look dumb. And of course, they're yelling and screaming, and they all sound like kids. So again, with the Retribution, it's hit or miss. Some weeks it hasn't been horrible, and some weeks it's been flat out stupid. This was, I guess a little bit of both. So we go to commercial again. We come back. Drew McIntyre is backstage kind of addressing the troops. A lot of guys are standing there with him. Seth Rollins shows up and says that he can lead because he's the Messiah and all that crap. Ricochet opens up his mouth and talks shit to him, and Seth gives it back to him, and just a whole lot of jaw-jacking backstage. And Titus O'Neil was back there as well. And I always knew Drew was big, but I had no idea that Drew was taller than Titus O'Neil. They were standing right next to each other, and it looked like Drew might have had an inch on him. I always just in my head thought that Titus would be, maybe an inch taller than Drew. Just felt like it was the other way around. So that, I don't know why it surprised me. Drew's been on TV and been a wrestler now for about 15 years, and I'm just now noticing how tall he is. The Hurt Business was out next. They had a promo. MVP's out there with his troops. He calls out Retribution. Now, this I like because he's been doing this ever since he faced Apollo that first time, and we started seeing those the lights flickering. It was the first time Retribution, I think, made their presence known on TV. And MVP kind of blamed it all on Apollo Crews. He's like, you're behind this. It's not a coincidence that all these things happened during the same match that I lose my title. And at first, we are all just kind of laughing it off. I'm like, MVP's fucking delusional. He's so focused on Apollo that he can't see, what's really happening here. And he's actually blaming Apollo and trying to use it to get himself another title match, all that kind of stuff. What if it turns out that he's right? I think that would be really cool, because we saw a lot of stuff with Apollo and Ali, who apparently was one of the main candidates to be the hacker or whatever, and Cedric and Ricochet. What if they are all in on this? What if MVP was right all along? He's been saying it and saying it and saying it, that he didn't do it, or that he thinks it's Apollo and we all think it's Retribution. What if it's all kind of intertwined like that? You know what I mean? I think that would be kind of cool. So we then get a match. Apollo comes out to the ring to confront them, talk some smack on the mic. We then get Apollo versus Shelton Benjamin after the commercial break. R-Truth and the Ninjas run out there. So Truth, I think Tozawa is chasing R-Truth for the 24/7 title. They run through the ring, causes enough distraction for Apollo to roll up and pin Shelton Benjamin for the win. The Hurt Business immediately jump the ring and attack Apollo. He's then saved by Ricochet, Cedric, and Ali. Truth then shows back up during the scuffle. I think it was the promo first. I think the babyfaces kind of beat down the Hurt Business. They retreat to the ramp. MVP gets on the mic, and he challenges any three of them to a 6-man elimination tag team match for later on in the night. And after that is when R-Truth shows back up, and Shelton Benjamin nails him and actually wins the 24/7 title. So that all kind of happened all at once there. And it just got me thinking, because we would see more with Ali and Cedric and Ricochet and all those guys, because Cedric had tweaked a shoulder in the brawl or whatever. So, backstage later on, they're trying to decide who's going to be the three guys. And I think it's Ricochet who picks Apollo and Ali to be his partner. He's like, you got hurt. You sit on the sidelines. It's all good. So they kind of started teasing that possibly dissension, or one guy kind of being, a little frustrated or whatever. And even MVP went to approach Cedric later on in the night when he's sitting on the crate kind of pouting that he's not in the match, kind of trying to recruit him over to the Hurt Business, and Cedric wants nothing to do with it. So they're teasing all of that there. So it's one of those things where, are they planting seeds for something, or is all of this stuff like red herrings? They're trying to, defer our attention into different directions and then hit us something with a, that's a complete surprise later. I don't know if I trust WWE to be that creative, but that's kind of what I hope they're doing here. Because what I noticed tonight on Raw is my brain was moving in like 6 different storyline directions. That's what I like. I want to be kept on my toes. I want to say, well, it could go this way. Well, it could go this way or this way. I don't like predictable. And so I feel like for the most part, they're doing a good job of really making me think, maybe wonder if they got some sort of trick up their sleeve and they're really going to hit us with some cool shit here. I don't know. But I do maybe like the idea of maybe MVP getting on TV one day and be like, I told you so. I told you all along it was those guys. You didn't believe me, you assholes, and look at what they've done to the company now. That sort of thing. So anyway, y'all let me know what you think about any of those ideas here in the comments below. We had Angel Garza backstage. Who's the girl? Help me with this. I put her in the thumbnail because there was just nothing better to use. I was trying to wait for a Randy Orton and HBK spot, but it came so far at the end, and I wanted to get up here and do the live stream. I couldn't find a really proper one, so there was the shot of the girl with the drumstick, turkey leg, and the rose. I'm like, perfect, we'll use that. But who is she? I don't even know her name. She's from The Bachelor. Why is she there? Why is she on TV for the past 3 weeks? What the fuck is the point? I mean, do they have any sort of co-promotion with The Bachelor or whatever stupid show she was on? I don't even understand why she's there other than just to be another prop for Garza to go after because he's after everybody. So he's back there sweet-talking her. And Ivar then shows up and kind of runs him off. They have a match next, Angel Garza versus Ivar. Garza beats him. And that's when it gets kind of good because they kind of take you in another direction here and reveal something that I think sucks, but also might be a way to swerve us if they really kind of write it creatively here. So anyway, after the match, Angelo Dawkins, he appears on the screen. During the match, they cut backstage to the girl watching on the monitor, and Angelo comes up and talks to her, and he's kind of trying to sweet talk her, trying to get her number and all that shit. And he comes on the screen after the match and said that he's going to reveal some sort of a special video. Oh, you know what I'm talking about. I got a video, and I'm sure Charlie Caruso will be happy to watch this or be interested to see this or whatever he said about her. And Garza seems extremely concerned. Zelina seems extremely concerned. Garza even bails out of the ring and starts running to the back to confront him, to stop him from playing some sort of footage. And I was wondering, too, I'm like, is this going to be, like, more hacker stuff? Is this going to be something like a sex tape backstage? And I had no idea what they were going to play. So Samoa Joe seems to know about this. And Samoa Joe is another guy that I wanted to talk about here because I think his role in everything right now is kind of interesting. He's kind of in the background of a few things, the Seth Rollins stuff and this. And Zelina goes over to the announce table because Joe has been saying things like, I know what's going on. Like, I know the video that he's going to show. You guys are going to love it. And props to Byron Saxton. He just takes so much verbal abuse, and he just handles it like a champ. Joe says something like, I'm well respected around here. Everybody likes me. I'm well liked, unlike some of my colleagues over here. And he goes, unlike some of my colleagues over here, Byron. And Byron just he just looks at the camera like he's constantly shit on it. He takes it like a champ. Even though Byron's an idiot. I love that guy. Samoa Joe says that he shared the footage that he saw with Dawkins, and he goes on to say that because of the retribution stuff that's been going on, hundreds and hundreds of hours of security footage is being reviewed, and he's one of the ones that gets to look at it. He found something interesting, and he gave that footage to Angelo Dawkins. So we go to commercial, we come back. Zelina and her crew are backstage with Dawkins, with the girl. Chuck shows up with a microphone. She goes, what's all the commotion, guys? And they're all sitting there arguing with each other, and they're saying, don't play it, don't play it. Dawkins just shouts out into the distance, some invisible production guy, probably Magic is what I'm guessing, and he says, show the video. So they put the video up on the screen for us to see at home, and it's a camera on the back of a woman, dark hair, appears to be Zelina Vega, and she's just standing there doing something, and she turns around, you can see it's her, so you saw her face, and then walks away, and sitting there was Montez's crown and his cup, his red Solo cup. So that seems to be proof that Zelina Vega did, in fact, poison him after all, which I think kind of sucks. I was hoping for somebody else. I was hoping for retribution. I was kind of hoping for Angelo Dawkins. I was starting to think that after we were watching so many Street Profits matches and being able to see how stupidly athletic Montez Ford is, I can completely see WWE management saying, let's make a star out of him, put him in singles, break up the Street Profits. So if you turn Dawkins heel, it could be a good way to do that. I mean, if Vince has seen even one of Montez's frog splashes, I'm sure that he sees maybe some dollar signs there. He's charismatic as hell. He's absolutely out of his mind, and he's great. He could be I think he could be a pretty big single star. So I thought that might be a fun direction to go in as well. But the one person I didn't want it to be, no matter who they made the poisoner, was Zelina, because that was kind of who was obvious, and she was maintaining her innocence the whole time. And much like MVP, who's kind of adamant about something, I was kind of hoping she would turn out to be right. We even saw Bianca Belair home invade Zelina, which is, kind of a touchy subject right now based on what happened yesterday, but shows up at Zelina's house during a Twitch stream and attacks her and beats her ass. So all of that going on, and Zelina professing her innocence so much, I found this to be a letdown that she was, in fact, really the one that did it. And I was kind of hoping that we, didn't see her face, but we did. And I thought it would have been cool if they just kept her back, like the same outfit that she was wearing, which seemed to be the same that she had on screen, too, right? Which leads me to believe they just filmed that shit earlier on in the day. But I think it would have been much better if her face wasn't shown. And then it could turn out that maybe it was somebody in disguise. Maybe it was Charlie Caruso or something like that, because there's some tension there. Or maybe it was some big, grand setup by Dawkins where he got someone to pose as Zelina or whatever. Maybe Dawkins and Zelina are in on it because Andrade seemed surprised. So maybe we could see some alliances split and reform with other people here. Maybe Andrade and Angel can go on their own. Maybe be baby faces. I don't know. Zelina can get up with Dawkins and Montez can go on his own. I don't know. It seems like you could do a lot of different things there. Whatever they do, I just hope it's a little bit more interesting than this current thing. It almost feels like they want to drop the poisoning angle, so they just made it Zelina to kill it. But if it's more of a whodunit thing, I think that would be more fun. And for some reason, they seem to have just ended it, and I don't understand why. Before we get on to this next match, which was probably match of the year, I would say Natalya versus Mickie James, match of the year in 2020. Would you agree? Yeah, probably. So we'll talk about that in a second. Let me cruise up here and knock out a couple of more super chats while we're at it. I wouldn't mind some likes, since tonight's audience will probably be a little bit low. If you guys could hook me up with a like, I would appreciate it. Check out this past Saturday's Winged Eagle podcast, too, if you have not. We talked about a lot of good stuff on Saturday. Who did I leave out? DM23. What's going on, dude? Appreciate the $2. DM23 versus good mic work. Loser has to wear spinner belt. Holy shit. Well, if that's the stipulation, I will train for 4 years to prepare for that, because I will not lose that match. Now, if that was for the WWE title, you could probably beat me. But if I have to win that, if I lose and I have to win that belt, I will go to any length to make sure that I win. I will cheat. I will pull your hair. I will gouge your eyes out. I will hire a hitman. You will not beat me. But if it's a regular match, you probably will. Mike Maxon, appreciate the $5. Aren't go-home shows supposed to make you want to spend money to see the pay-per-view? Yup. That's what I mentioned earlier on. That's exactly what they're supposed to do, and they haven't had that identity in years. I mean, every now and then WWE can throw a good go-home at you, but it's rare. I mean, back in the Attitude Era, man, the way they would always have that closing segment, whatever it was, whether it was a big brawl or whatever, it's usually, whoever's involved in the main event, some sort of a match or a tag team match or just some, fade to black brawl with Jim Ross screaming in the background, what's going to happen this Sunday? And, remember those days? And, it would just go off and the show would shut off and you're like, holy shit, what is going to happen this Sunday? I got to see that. They don't even come close to achieving that level of excitement on a go-home show. Not even close. Not even the same goddamn galaxy as those shows. That's how far out they are from that. So, yeah, that's just not the same anymore. Miss those days, man. Hey, Attitude Era, year 2000, 20th anniversary of SummerSlam SummerSlam 2000 is on my channel right now if you want to check it out. It was a fun review. It's long, too. So go over there. Watch it. All right, next up, we had Match of the Year in 2020. Natalya taking on Mickie James in an absolute clinic. I thought Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels was the best, pure technical wrestling match we had seen of, maybe the 90s, but Natalya and Mickie just blew that away. Absolutely phenomenal work here by both ladies. Obviously, I'm kidding. This match was garbage. Mickie James just returned last week. They even made a big deal about how she's going to be in the ring this week against Natalya, set it up in a little promo. We're all happy to see her back. She gets the jobber entrance. They don't even get their entrances, which normally doesn't bother me. I think entrances are stupid, or most of them, especially today. I can do without most of them. But the fact that Mickie James gets the jobber entrance, Jesus, man. And the match doesn't even go on for very long because Lana is so busy TikToking the thing, and with, 90 seconds, maybe not even that, 1 minute into the match, you have Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy storming down to the ring to confront Samoa Joe. So not only does Samoa Joe got his nose in this Retribution and security footage of Zelina nonsense. He's also somehow been made aware that Rey Mysterio and Dominic are both in the building. His sources have told him that. He knows that they're there. And Seth comes down and demands to know how Joe knows this. Who's telling you this stuff? How do you know all this stuff? I need to know right now. And Joe ain't even breaking. He's like, get the fuck out of my face, dude. I don't have to tell you anything, which I like. So I like that Joe, he doesn't even stand up. He just sits in his chair. He's like, go fuck yourself. Like, I'm not going to tell you anything. You don't threaten me. I'm not scared of you or your little surfy Murphy. And get the hell out of here kind of thing. So he doesn't really give Seth anything, but during all of that is when we get a really awkward kind of count-out victory for Natalya. So even in my notes, I wrote down when the match started, Mickie defeats Natalya. They're not going to have her lose on her first night, are they? And Natalya wound up winning via count-out. Now, it doesn't matter. I saw a lot of people all uppity, oh my God, she lost. Who cares? You know, at the end of the day, I think it's dumb, but it was a match that they obviously weren't focused on. At no point was Natalya and Mickie James the focus of that segment. That was all about Seth and Samoa Joe. I think they should have done that in a different match. I'll grant you that. But I'm sure all this is going to lead to is a rematch probably next week or something where we'll get an actual match and an actual Mickie James victory. Unless she faces Lana first and they kind of do what Ruby was doing with the Iconics where they just, you know, rotate facing each other every week, which gets old. But in terms of tonight on Raw, Mickie deserves better. Are we going to see that shit? Probably. But I guess it was like, it was disappointing and dumb, but it was almost like I didn't care. I didn't care. You know, we'll see what happens next week. I'm sure Mickie will bounce back and get her win, but that is a strange place to put her considering she just returned. Why is she getting the jobber entrance and why is she in a match that it just has nothing focused on it? Like, what the hell? I don't know. Makes no sense to me. So that happened. After that, we had the Sasha Banks and Bayley promo. They are fabulous. It was great. They come out to the ring. They talk about basically the gauntlet that they've got to run this week. I mean, they've got to defend their titles twice at SummerSlam, or they each have to defend their title, I should say, at SummerSlam. And then a week later, they got to defend the tags at Payback. So they've got a tough road ahead of them. They start talking about the match with Asuka, and it was so funny. Both ladies, both women want the other one to go first. So Bayley is like, we both get to face Asuka at SummerSlam. Who's going to get to beat her first? You know, since I'm such a good friend, Sasha, you can beat her first. I'll let you beat her first. And Sasha's like, no. I would not do that to you. You're my best friend. I love you so much. You can go first. And they kind of go back and forth on that a little bit. Finally, Bayley actually accepts, and she agrees to do it. She's going to go first against Asuka at SummerSlam. After that, this is hilarious. Shayna Baszler comes out to the ring because there's a tag match advertised for the show. It's Sasha and Bayley versus Asuka and Shayna. And I put on Twitter, I think Shayna and Asuka can make a run for the men's tags. Sorry, Lance Storm. I know that's something that you're against, but damn. I think they'd give any tag team champions a run for their money. That's a badass team. So that's a match that is advertised. Shayna comes out and says, hey, whoever comes out of SummerSlam with that red belt, I got next. So she basically challenges the winner of Sasha and Asuka. Asuka comes out after that. She says a few things on the mic. Her and Shayna dive into the ring and run off Bayley and Sasha, and they're ready to fight right now. And hearing Bayley yell out, hold on, stop. We got so much gold to take off. I fucking popped for that. She is fantastic. Bayley is amazing. I have never been as big of a Bayley fan as I am now. Much like Sami Zayn and a couple of other people, she really proved me wrong on the heel stuff. It's not that I didn't think she could be a heel. I didn't think she could be a great heel, but she is a great heel, and she's such a shit-talking bastard. I love her, and Bayley's up there with, I think all my favorite people in WWE right now are like women and Big E and R-Truth. That's it, you know? Give me Sasha, give me Bayley, give me Asuka, give me Big E, and give me R-Truth. I don't really need anything else, to be honest with you. So that was good stuff. We now go to the match. Match kicks off. Asuka, Shayna, Bayley and Sasha. Minute or two into the match, Nia Jax shows up. Nia Jax, who was suspended by Pat Buck a couple of weeks ago, she like punches through one of the plexiglass panels, hitting Shayna with it, hops over the barricade, starts beating Shayna's ass, and they kind of brawl away. So Shayna's gone. Asuka's in there by herself against two in what is virtually a handicap match for quite a while. I think they even go to commercial break and come back during all this 2-on-1 stuff. Finally, near the end, Shayna Baszler resurfaces. She comes back out there, gets in the ring to help out Sasha, and in a great finish, she ends up locking the Kirifuda clutch onto Bayley in the ring, while Asuka has got the Asuka lock on Sasha on the floor outside of the ring, and Bayley taps out, and Shayna and Asuka are your winners, and that was pretty good. I liked it. That was one of the bright spots on the show. Didn't really like the Nia involvement, but I'm really glad that it didn't end like that. Like Nia attacked Shayna, and then it was just 2-on-1 the whole time, and we never got Shayna back out there. I like that she reappeared, and I like that Asuka and Shayna basically asserted their dominance over both of those ladies because, you know, they had them both tapping out like that. Good stuff. So as it pertains to SummerSlam, you know, we talked about this on Saturday. I would like nothing more than for Asuka to walk out of there with both of those titles, but I don't think that's best for the Sasha and Bayley storyline. So I think Asuka will win one. Now, what I think is cool here is they got Bayley going first. So, you know, what do you... Oh, God, I think she should get past Bayley. Or I'm sorry, Bayley should get past her maybe. And then Asuka beats Sasha because I think Asuka, I'd rather have her have the Raw belt. You know what I mean? But I would like to see some really crazy swerve. Like, I'd like to see, oh, man, something like Sasha come out and help Bayley win. Okay? Help her win and retain the title against Sasha. And then later on, Bayley tries to do the same thing and return the favor, but goofs up and costs Sasha the belt or something. So Sasha can be like, man, I helped you keep yours and you screwed me out of mine. That sort of thing. And then Asuka walks out of there with one belt, and that sets her and Shayna on a collision course after Raw. But if they did it the other way and they had Asuka walk out of there with everything, that's cool too, because they have set up Asuka. Keep getting these ladies' names confused. They have set up Sasha and Bayley to potentially lose everything in just a matter of days, because if they both drop their belts and then they drop the tags, which I don't think they've announced who their opponents are at Payback, it's going to be a tag team match against someone. Maybe it will be Asuka and Shayna Baszler winning the tag team titles. And then we're going to have that situation like we always have with the men so many times, like back in the day. You know, didn't Shawn Michaels and John Cena main event WrestleMania as tag team champions? We'll have that sort of thing where there'll be rivals, but they'll be champions at the same time. They might do that. I don't know. But I did like that match. I enjoyed all of it, and it really got my, you know, kind of my wheels spinning, turning, trying to think about what they're going to do at SummerSlam with all those women and who's going to win what belts and what direction they're going to go in. Or if they really double swerve us and Asuka walks out of there with nothing and both Bayley and Sasha retain. I don't want to see that either. So either way, it should be fun. I'm expecting fun. Just a lot of fun. Yeah, Aaron, I talked about the new setup just a little while ago. You're talking about the Thunderdome stuff, right? Yeah, we talked about it kind of to open up the show here, as I mentioned that this was going to be the last PC show for quite a while, and I'm very happy to be done with the PC. I guess the current deal they're on is through November, I think, with Amway, but I'm not expecting COVID to be really done by then, so I'm hoping they extend that and they just stay there until Amway is needed again, or we can start having shows again. I don't know. Really just don't know. So much is up in the air. Yeah, and something like that, Ryan, that's a good point too, because whatever happens at SummerSlam with Sasha and Bayley could spill over into Payback. A lot of hard feelings there, especially if one of those ladies drops their belts. That's gonna carry over into the Payback match, and one of them could, you know, exhibit some frustration or turn on the other or walk out or something like that. I don't know. But I think if there would have never been a pandemic, don't you think that we'd be getting Sasha and Bayley right now at SummerSlam in Boston for the title, like the SmackDown title? I'm not sure if they would have ever included Asuka into this or had Sasha win the Raw title or anything. That might have been the original plan. So, I don't know. I mean, at this point, I'm in no rush to see them break up, even though we've been talking about it for a year. I'm really in no rush. They're great together. Sasha and Bayley are entertaining, especially that Bayley. She's got me cracking up literally every week. She's so obnoxious, and that's why she's great. I love her. So anyway, next up was the segment I referred to earlier on. We were backstage with Cedric and Ali and Ricochet and Apollo, and Cedric is upset that he didn't get picked because Apollo believes that he's injured. He's like, dude, your shoulder is tweaked. Sit this one out. We got 4 of us here. Let us go out there and do the dirty work. Don't risk getting injured, because when I went out there with a bum shoulder, I sat at home for a couple of months. Don't want to see that happen to you. Cedric's frustrated, but he kind of understands. But There's that seed. They just planted the seed to think that, okay, maybe he can turn. I was just talking about all 4 of them being involved in Retribution somehow and being kind of undercover baby faces, who are really heels during all of this. And now teasing that one is going to split off. Maybe that's all part of their plan, is to throw us off. Let's make it sound like we got dissension between us and create some fake, some fake infighting, get everybody thinking one way while we can, slither underneath and take everybody out kind of thing. So I think that would be fun. Now, later on, we did see MVP approach Cedric, and he says, no, get out of here. I'm not dumb. I know what you're trying to do. I'm not going to join your hurt business or whatever. I think it go a lot of different ways. And I always envision, I want to see something like this again. We haven't seen anything like it since. But back in the 2001, after the buyout, and they started the invasion stuff, when they realized that WCW's roster was shit, and it wasn't going to be really credible enough to compete with WWE, that's when they decided to bring in the ECW crew. And they had that great night on Raw where the ECW guys jumped in and attacked WWE guys, and then a bunch of WWE guys all hit the ring, but they were all former ECW guys, right? And then did they do 2 different segments like that? Or 3, I forgot, or 1 segment like that, or 2. But then at the end, you see the big standoff there with the WWE guys and how did it go? How the fuck did they do it? And ECW guys, but really they were all in the same faction. They kind of turn around together, and then they all jump. I think it was Jericho and Kane. That whole deal. I'm having trouble remembering exactly how that went. But I think it was like 2 swerves. There was one at first, and then the Alliance, or WCW and ECW, joined up at the end of the show. And that's when Heyman was out there, and Stephanie and Shane. Stephanie was revealed as the new owner, all that shit. So something like that, where maybe, at the end, the Hurt Business teams up with all those other guys or something, and you get Cedric and Ali and Apollo and MVP and Lashley and Shelton all together in one big giant faction. I don't know. Maybe they turn out to be Retribution. I'm not sure. But you have MVP convinced it's Apollo. You have other people convinced it's somebody else. Nobody knows who poisoned poor Montez, that sort of thing. So, and Samoa Joe, like I talked about earlier, he somehow knew about that security footage. He somehow knew that Ray and Dominic were there. He's had an interesting role, in what he's doing. And he's such a good character. He's a great announcer, but I'm not sure if you get all your value out of Samoa Joe just being an announcer. He's more than that. He can get in the ring. He can cut a promo. He could be a leader of a faction. He could be a mouthpiece. He can be a character on TV. So I think Joe is another guy to keep an eye on, because it might turn out that he has some bigger role than we currently see. So I think the stage is set for some potential surprises. And that was the one thing I took away from tonight's Raw, is that everything they gave us, I could see them doing a couple of different things. None of these ideas I'm saying are necessarily good or bad, but I can just see them potentially going in those directions. And whatever they do, I just want to be surprised and kept on my toes. I don't think that's much to ask for a wrestling fan. Know what I'm saying? Why don't we go to some more super chats before I wrap up the Raw results? Reese Jones, good to see you, man. Are you the next one? I think you are. Welcome back, dude. And thanks for the super. Do you think there is a middle ground between the Bayley we have now and the Hug Life Bayley for when they turn her back face? Yes, I hope so. I don't think she can go completely back to that type of thing. There's got to be an in-between, because she's different now, and I think she can be a little bit more serious and, having those big inflatable things and the ponytail off to the side and the colorful bullshit and hugging the kids and stuff. I think she can be just a more serious baby face, but still get cheered kind of thing. And I actually think she'll be a better baby face, because before she was a good baby face, but it was just beboppy and stuff. I just didn't like it. I think now that her character has evolved to this degree, I don't think there's any rush turning her back face, because she's phenomenal as a heel, but eventually you're going to do it. You'll do it. So I don't think we'll ever see that exact Bayley again, unless they bring it back for like a throwback. Hogan went back to red and yellow every now and then, but sometimes he was a face without the red and yellow type of shit. So maybe for just like an old school Raw show, we'll probably see that. I bet you in like 15 years, 10 years, we'll get an old school Raw, but instead of 90s stuff, it's like this era stuff, and we'll see what will then be maybe 40-something Bayley coming out to that old entrance. It might be fun, but other than that, I don't really want to see that again. And I think she'll be a good babyface next time around and be just taken a little bit more seriously, as she should. Backstage, we've got Shawn Michaels talking to Drew McIntyre. He approaches him, gives him a little pep talk and a stamp of approval, and we would be seeing Shawn later on in the main event segment. And we then get the Iconics approaching Liv, Morgan, and Ruby. They're kind of talking smack to him after they're done, kind of setting up their little one-on-one match, because I think Billie Kay is supposed to face Ruby, and then she just decides to not do it and be like, you know what? My shoulder's feeling a little funny. My friend Peyton's going to take you on instead. And Peyton's like, oh, really? And then, of course, she's like, you're my best friend. I'll do anything for you. Those two are not nearly as good as Sasha and Bayley with the subtle type of tension. And it was just kind of dumb. So I guess it's going to be Peyton taking on Ruby Riott, and she beat her again. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Right after they were done, with that backstage segment, the camera kind of pans over to show Shayna Baszler hanging out with Jessamine Duke and Marina Shafir. Weird. Where the hell have they been? I haven't seen them in a while. So that kind of got you wondering what their role is going to be. After that, we get the Peyton Royce and Ruby Riott match. Peyton beats her. Liv seems surprised, and Liv and Ruby just can't seem to get it together. That's just really getting old. We get Raw Underground next, so Shane is back, hyping it up. We get Eric from the Viking Raiders taking on that blonde guy again. He beats him. Dolph Ziggler, who's on the outside of the ring with Shane McMahon, doing a lot of talking and a lot of cheering the action on. Shane makes him get in the ring and fight, and Dolph's a good wrestler, and he wound up beating Eric. So that was that. Later on, we had Riddick Moss brawling with a guy on the outside of the ring. Shane is just going nuts, hopping all over the place. So just a basic, Raw Underground segment that we've seen for the past 2 weeks. This is week 3, right? So nothing too crazy there, just Dolph and Eric mixing it up a little bit, and they would come back to that later on with some interesting stuff. Now, next up, we get the Dominic and Rey Mysterio promo. Samoa Joe was the one that told us that these guys were there. Seth Rollins does warn them, I think when he was talking to Samoa Joe, that if they show up, it'll be like the last mistake they make, because he's going to end them both type of thing. So Dominic and Rey come out to the ring. Dominic is, he's walking slow. He got his ass whooped last week. My God. Poor guy just got kendo stick to death. So he's kind of hobbling out there a little bit. He ain't feeling good. Rey is out there with the eye patch, and he goes on to talk about how much pain he suffered, but the pain he suffered since Extreme Rules has been nothing compared to the pain he suffered when he had to watch his son get annihilated with the kendo sticks last week. And he said he feels a rage inside of him that he's never felt before, and says that he will be in Dominic's corner at SummerSlam, which we pretty much figured he would. Dominic thanks him for that. Seth Rollins then appears on the screen, and Rey Mysterio is pissed, and he calls him out. Why don't you come out here, asshole, type of thing. So he does. Seth and Buddy Murphy come out. There's kind of a standoff there. Rey and Dominic actually powder, because, Rey's got one eye and Dominic's all busted up, so they don't really want to go toe-to-toe with these guys. And they kind of separate a little bit. Rey walks around to the side of the ring where the ramp is. Dominic walks to the back. Buddy and Seth are kind of focused on Rey, allowing Dominic to retrieve 2 kendo sticks, sneaks in the ring, nails Seth. Rey jumps in there as well. They nail Buddy a few times. He gets out of there, and then Rey and Dominic get to double team Seth Rollins with those kendo sticks, and they just beat the shit out of him. They tie him up in the ropes. They got a little bit of payback. Buddy, I think, returned and got Seth out of there. So Seth didn't suffer the same type of beating that Dominic did, but it was a little bit of revenge, and probably had to feel pretty good for Dominic to lay a few of those shots in and some of those receipts on Seth. So I like that. I like that Dominic and Rey kind of set him up there. They lured him in, and I still like Dominic. I like the fact that this kid is out there with, bruises. He should not be 100%, and he's setting up schemes to attack Seth Rollins. The kid's fearless. He's fearless, and he's a badass. And I like me Dominic. I'm a big Dominic fan. Who would have thought? I like Dominic more than I did like when I first saw Dustin Rhodes. Like when Dustin first showed up as Dusty's kid. He was good. He was a natural, and Dustin's awesome. But I think I like year 1 Dominic more than year 1 Dustin. Dominic is just he gives 0 Fs. Tough kid. Can't wait to see the match. Should be interesting. We're really going to be able to get a look at what Dominic can do now, because it is a match. We've seen him take some bumps. Brock Lesnar German suplexed him all the way to hell last year at the Survivor Series, and we've seen him do some athletic things in the ring. I know he can climb the ropes, and I know he's tough, but now we'll get to see him in an actual match. Imagine that, your very first match being against Seth Rollins at SummerSlam, against a guy who's, one of the best wrestlers in the world. So Seth will take care of him, I'm sure, and Dominic's in good hands, and I think the match will surprise us. I hope it does. Ray's going to be out there. Buddy's going to be out there, so that'll help. Dominic's not going to have to carry the entire match in the ring, one-on-one with Seth. We're going to get a lot of Mysterio interference. We're going to get a lot of Buddy Murphy interference. I suppose there's even the off chance that they could add them together and do a tag team match or something like that if they wanted to. But I don't know. Who do you have winning that match? Is Dominic going to get the revenge for his dad, or is Seth going to put him down? Give me your predictions, and I'll predict it myself on Thursday. What's up, Ramon Coffee? Good to see you. Appreciate the $2. What movies do I have in my DVD collection? I got a shitload of movies. A bunch, a lot. A lot of comedies, a lot of 90s and 80s stuff, a lot of classics, everything. The Karate Kids, and Back to the Futures, and Rockies, and all that shit. I got tons and tons of movies. Too many to list in this live stream. After that, we had Cedric Alexander taking on Akira Tozawa. Now, I'm sorry, we didn't. The 6-man elimination was next. Sorry. Back up. I wish I could do that thing that John Cena did as the prototype, where he could do the rewind thing. That would be fun, because I do need to rewind here, because we had the 6-man elimination tag up next. This was Mustafa Ali, Ricochet, and Apollo taking on the Hurt Business. Now, Ali and Ricochet get eliminated pretty quickly, pretty early, leaving Apollo Crews all by himself, 3-on-1. He fights back, eliminates Shelton Benjamin, he eliminates Shelton Benjamin first, and then Cedric Alexander shows up right after that elimination, jumps Shelton on the outside of the ring, and wins the 24/7 title. So now Cedric is the 24/7 title holder. Funny thing is, I made my overlay earlier today with R-Truth, and then he lost the belt. I'm like, son of a bitch, so I just I put Cedric's face on the belt, and then after that, when he lost later, I put Shelton's on there. So anyway, Cedric is now your new 24/7 champion. Then Apollo winds up eliminating, who do you eliminate next? MVP. And then Lashley came up and picked up the pieces. So it got down to 1-on-1. Apollo fought back, but in the end, he had a Bobby Lashley who had barely even broke a sweat. He made pretty quick work out of Apollo and got the win for his team. So that was that in the 6-man elimination. We did see another title change, our second of the night. And then we cut backstage to see Shayna and her girls talking to Shane McMahon. So it looks like they're going to get involved in that Raw Underground stuff, which is cool. I like that they're keeping it co-ed. You know what I mean? I like it that you got women competing in this thing too. Makes it fun, adds variety and all of that. And honestly, that's a good place for those women to be, because they've been in developmental now for how long? 3 years? I mean, and they're still not ready for prime time, and I don't know if they really ever will be. So this might be a little bit more up their alley to get them going and kind of ease them, kind of dip their toes into the water, so to speak, on live TV and Monday Night Raws and stuff. And do something like this first to get him going. I don't know. After that, we had Cedric then defending the newly won 24/7 title against Akira Tozawa. He beats him, but then after that, Shelton Benjamin comes down and wins the title. So it's passed from everybody here. Who got it? Shelton to Cedric to Shelton again, or whatever the hell they did here. So a lot of champions, a lot of 24/7 title holders tonight. I'm just waiting. Every time R-Truth loses it, I'm not even upset, because I know he'll win it back, and that'll just add to his total. And I think if they really try hard enough, they might be able to get to the point where he is a 100-time champion. That would be fun. After that, we get Marina Shafir in an underground match. She wins. Nia Jax, who's just all over the place, jumps in the ring, and she knocks out both girls. Shayna gets in the ring and kind of challenges her, but Nia jumps off and leaves and goes away and pussies out. So she just walks out, and Shane's like, hey, the rules are you have to fight. The only rule is you have to fight. Well, she's breaking that rule, Shane, so what happens to her? And what's the deal with her suspension? Is it just over now, or is she breaking the law? Breaking the law. And by coming in and getting in the ring and stuff, is she going to be suspended more, fined, whatever? I kind of thought that they did the suspension thing to keep her off TV through SummerSlam, because they didn't have anything for her, and she'd just be in the way there. So after SummerSlam, she can come back and maybe be a contender. And it does look like they're putting together this Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler feud, which might happen before we get another title match with Shayna Baszler. You also have Charlotte, who could be coming back one day. She's got some revenge to get on Nia Jax as well. So Nia Jax is making all the wrong kind of enemies, because I know WWE puts her over more than fans would like, but I'm not sure if they're going to put her over Charlotte. So she's, she's making some enemies. That's not going to be good for her, I don't think, in the long run. After that, we had the returning Montez Ford that showed up in that backstage segment when Zelina was outed as the one who poisoned him. He's taken on Andrade. Pretty good match. He won with a roll-up when Bianca Belair, I was wondering where she was. This is the girl that broke into Zelina's house to attack her to get revenge on her, and somehow she was nowhere to be found during that backstage segment. But she shows up here, beats the shit out of Zelina on the outside of the ring, and that allows Montez to roll up Andrade and beat him there. And the Street Profits, of course, are defending against Andrade and Garza at SummerSlam. I'm kind of wondering if the Profits are going to drop the belts. Otherwise, what was the point of all this? Not really sure. And that leaves us with the main event segment, Shawn Michaels coming down to the ring. We knew he was going to be there to address the Randy Orton and Ric Flair situation, and you knew this is another thing that was super predictable. Shawn's not going to be there without taking a punt or an RKO or both, and he took both. He wasn't even out there for very long. He didn't even say much on the mic other than he's confident that Randy Orton will get his at SummerSlam. And unlike the tagline says, he will see it coming. He will see this Claymore coming that's going to knock his head clean off his shoulders kind of thing. And that's when Randy Orton, and I kind of thought we would have a much slower type of build-up to this. But when I looked at the time, there was only a couple of minutes left in the show. I was expecting Randy Orton to come out and cut a long promo and then lure Shawn in and RKO him. Instead, Orton just hits the ring, RKOs Shawn, and then moves right into a punt right after that. Like immediately transitions into a punt right off of the RKO. It was brutal. Drew didn't even have time to react. McIntyre runs out there immediately, but Randy got to Shawn so quickly that Drew didn't even have a chance to, to fight him off. So he actually does fight off Randy Orton, and Randy Orton then would come back into the ring. I think he fought him off again. He's tending to Shawn Michaels. Orton comes in, RKOs Drew McIntyre, and kind of gets the last laugh on McIntyre and Shawn Michaels. So based on how that whole segment went, I thought it was good. I thought, because Shawn is still somewhat athletic, and I thought he took the RKO good, and I thought he took the RKO well, and then I thought the camera work, as shaky and crappy as it was, the punt looked pretty good, because nobody is a fan of that shaky-ass camera, but sometimes you got to do a few tricks just to make things look kind of decent, and I thought the RKO and punt was really well executed, so that was good stuff. And based on everything that we've seen Randy Orton do, my predictions are coming on Thursday, but right now I'm leaning pretty heavily towards McIntyre. I think that he'll find a way to win here. Orton has been on so much of a roll, and he's been annihilating people. He put Ric Flair out of the game, and now he just injured Shawn Michaels. You can't just be asshole, and win the title. I think Drew will beat him. I think Drew's going to retain at SummerSlam. We'll see how I feel between now and Thursday when I come up here for my predictions. I might change my mind, but based on the last 2 weeks of TV, how the hell is Drew not going to kick this guy's ass, And Randy Orton's one of my favorite guys in the company right now. I still want to see him get another run as champion, but maybe this is just not the exact time to do it. And there's a potential and a really good possibility that there's another match coming here in some way. I mean, don't forget, we have a pay-per-view 7 days after SummerSlam. There's not even enough time to get a new opponent in there. It's probably going to be McIntyre and Orton in a rematch at Payback, wouldn't you think? We're going to get one of those two title matches as a rematch. We're going to at least get Fiend and Strowman or McIntyre and Orton. One of those is going to happen at Payback, because otherwise, what are they going to do at that show? All we know is Sasha and Bayley are defending the women's tags. That's it. So I think we alluded to this a few weeks ago when the Payback date was announced and revealed. We're like, well, shit, 1 week after SummerSlam, I thought it might be a Tuesday in Texas type of situation, like we had at the Survivor Series that year when Hogan dropped the belt to The Undertaker, and Jack Tunney says, it ain't going to go like that. We're going to have another show at the earliest possible date, and we're going to do this again. So maybe there's a whole bunch of sketchy-ass finishes at SummerSlam, and they just kind of redo it. Why the 30th? I just don't understand why that date. It's so dumb to me. Payback doesn't even need to happen, because the next pay-per-view in September, I think, is only a couple of weeks after that. So there's way too many events here going on. I know WWE wants to show off their new Thunderdome. We're all very happy about the Thunderdome, but come on, isn't that overdoing it a little bit? So I am not looking forward to Payback at all. I feel like it's rushed. I feel like WWE can't even book shows that are in front of them, much less shows that are on the other side of shows that they already can't book. I don't know what we're going to. Maybe they'll surprise us. Maybe it'll be great. Maybe TakeOver, SummerSlam, and Payback will all be kick-ass, and wrestling for the next few weeks will be fantastic. I would like nothing more than for that to be the truth, but I ain't optimistic. What do you think? What do y'all think? Oh, yeah, I'm getting to that. Oh, yeah, that's right, Ryan. Good point. We talked about the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view prior to the news of them moving to the Amway Center. I'm like, they're going to have to scrap Hell in the Cell because it ain't going to fit. Not the one that they have. Maybe the one that they used in 97 would fit in the PC, but that fucking giant Empire State Building type of Hell in the Cell they have now that looks like a Mattel toy, there's no way that thing will fit in there, but it will now. It'll fit in Amway, so I think we actually are going to be able to get a Hell in the Cell. So we're going to get a Hell in the Cell with somebody. You know, maybe it's Fiend and Strowman. Maybe WWE has a chance to right a ridiculous wrong from a year ago in probably the most ridiculous Hell in the Cell match we've ever seen, and the Hell in the Cell match that's probably going to go down in history as the match that officially killed that concept dead when they did the stupid DQ thing with Seth and The Fiend last year. So I don't really want to see the Hell in the Cell, but at least they can have it now because they are in an arena, in a venue that's big enough to house something like that. So yeah, I guess Hell in the Cell is back, and that could be a very good idea for Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre. That would be good. I think that actually would be good, especially if it got bloody. It was TV 14 on SmackDown. What was tonight? Did we see TV 14 tonight on Raw? I didn't even notice the TV rating for this. But if they do 14 and we get a little bit more blood and stuff, you know, maybe we could have like kind of a gritty, bloody match between Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre. I wouldn't mind that. It's about time we get something like that. But I don't know. Do you think, though? I mean, is there enough heat there to warrant a Hell in the Cell? I suppose. I mean, Randy's taken out legends. You know, he took out my favorite match of WrestleMania 24 all within a week's time. So maybe there's enough there for Drew to say, yeah, I'm going to put you in this cage and end you once and for all. I don't know. But a stip definitely needs to happen. Hey, Dan Price, how are you, man? Good to see you, brother. Mike Maxon, appreciate the $5. HBK should have a match with Ziggler. Last year, it would have been good. I'd be into that. Sean coming back and having a match with Dolph. Man, his hair, man. He didn't look very good in that when he was bald in Saudi Arabia. He's kind of grown it out again. He's so bushy on his face, isn't he? Toxic Banana 99. Good to see you. Never sent a super chat before. Here you go. Well, I appreciate it, man. Good to seeing you. I didn't think I've seen your name before, so I think you've commented for sure before, but I appreciate that, dude. Thank you very much. Oh, what's up, Devlin? How's the new whip? How was the show tonight? It wasn't that great. If you were going to take one Monday off, this one wasn't bad, which is pretty depressing considering it was a go-home show. I thought there was a few interesting moments, as we've talked about, but overall, I'm giving this show a C-, I guess. I'm going to give it. Ooh, AJ Styles versus The Rock, yeah. Think about this, says William Smith. The SummerSlam without Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, Charlotte Flair, and Becky Lynch. Holy shit. You know what I thought about tonight, too? Remember a few weeks ago, we talked about, I don't know where the rumor had started, but I addressed it on one of the podcasts here, about Charlotte potentially being in like an intergender match. And a good opponent for her could potentially be Randy Orton. And I think at one point there was even that match was rumored for SummerSlam. I mean, this is not no credible source rumored this, but it was talked about. And I mentioned it because I'm like, that would be interesting. There has been, intergender matches has been a topic of conversation over the past couple of months. Do you think we'll see more of it or we'll see any of it? There's even a big debate, over the weekend where Lance Storm is against it, but he provides very good points kind of thing. So, it's been a pretty big topic of debate. And if they wound up doing that, I think that could be a pretty damn good match, Charlotte and Randy Orton. You've planted the seed for that now. Randy Orton punt-kicked her dad, her 70-year-old dad that was in a coma a year ago. What if she shows up at SummerSlam and costs Orton the match? We wouldn't see that coming, right? Charlotte hitting the ring in street clothes. Don't do anything stupid. Don't do her entrance theme where she comes down there in all of her Charlotte gear and her robe and all her bullshit. Have her come in there in jeans and heels and a tank top and some brass knucks and nail Randy Orton and allowing, just hit him right in the face, and then he kind of staggers him and he turns around, just eats a Claymore, goes down 1, 2, 3, and then Randy Orton is so pissed. Ric Flair, your daughter cost me the WWE title, so I'm going to do something that nobody's ever done before. I challenge you, Charlotte, one-on-one at Payback. Now, I know Charlotte's taken some time off. She's likely not going to be back anytime soon. But you could essentially do something like that now if you wanted, based on Randy Orton kicking old Nature's head off. So, just a thought. But I think she's nagging or rehabbing some injuries. She might even be getting minor surgery. So I don't think any of that is really likely, but would be cool. I'd be into it. Why not? Yeah, Daniel Bryan is another guy that's gone. I don't think so. I think Daniel Bryan has no interest in being there and forcing it and anything. He's got a family. He's got other interests. He doesn't give a shit. And I don't blame him. I'm glad that Daniel is just doing his own thing. No reason to be there. It's just it's a mess. And it'll get better. Whoa, shit. It'll get better, I think, at the Amway Center. I think we're going to see a lot better production, at least a little bit more excitement, but still maybe not enough to make anybody really want to come back. I did not hear that, Ryan. I have not. I've kind of been out of the loop today for wrestling news. Didn't get a chance to really read up on anything. I did not know about Triple H talking about Dream's situation. I'm sure Triple H has been asked about it. You know? I don't know, Vincente. I don't know if Charlotte will win a men's belt or not. I don't necessarily know if I need to see that per se. But, maybe WWE wants to, make her the first woman to do something like that because Tessa technically did it in Impact. Maybe they want to recreate something like that, but on a much larger level in WWE, and maybe put a belt on her. I don't think it would do any good to put the IC belt on her because China's already held that. They would want to do a first or something like that. So maybe Charlotte wins the Universal title or something. I don't know. I think just saying that out loud is going to make most fans barf, but I'm open to things. I'm cool with it. What's up, AJ? Good to see you, man. Appreciate the $5. Now that Orton's taken out HBK and Flair, who else thinks a certain someone is next? Hint, he has an H in his name. Yeah, he could get all of them, man. I'd like to see Batista come back, too, and him nail him. I guess that just depends. There's not another week left prior to SummerSlam for him to knock out Triple H. And based on who Triple H is, I think if that were to happen, Triple H, the character, would demand a match with Randy Orton. And we don't need that again, do we? But I think it would be cool if Orton was lining up all these guys, especially if he took out all of the, all the people that he's had wars and battles with and partnerships before and added Triple H to that list. I'd be cool with that. Maybe it depends on what we see at SummerSlam. Maybe Orton does something horrible. Triple H comes out there, kind of the way he got involved in the Pat McAfee and Adam Cole stuff, and he gets out there and then he gets punted or something. But if I'm going to see Triple H right now anywhere on TV, I think I'd rather see him doing what he's doing, like appearing behind the scenes sort of in NXT and just let him kind of hang there. It's where I'd prefer him to be, at least at the moment. Hey, what's up, Dan? I know this is a Raw feed, but I couldn't join on Saturday. AEW, MJF is taking the title from Mox. If not the first match, the second for sure. Cody will get a shot from MJF at Full Gear. Well, that would work, especially if if Cody did drop the TNT. He's beltless now. I don't want to see Cody with 2 belts. And then he gets a shot against MJF because MJF beat him, and all that can come full circle. I'd be into that. My gut still tells me that they're not going to do the title change there, but I don't always trust my gut. You could be completely right there. And if they did that scenario that you're laying out, no complaints. Even though it's not what I think is going to happen, it certainly wouldn't upset me. I'd be totally cool with that. I like MJF. What does Mox do after that? That's the question. You know what I mean? Yeah, and Triple H can break into Randy's house again. Exactly. Well, I guess we'll talk about that too. A couple of you are mentioning it. So we all heard the big story yesterday. Sonia Deville avoided a horrible tragedy. We all avoided a horrible tragedy here when the home of Sonia Deville was broken into by a crazy, obsessed asshole who planned this home invasion for about 8 months. I think he lived in South Carolina, drove all the way down to Florida where she lives, found out where she lived, brought a bunch of duct tape, mace, what else? Duct tape, mace, zip ties, shit like that, and cut a hole in her screen porch, entered the screen porch and sat and looked in the windows and watched and listened for about 4 hours until Sonia and whoever was in the house with her, I'm guessing her partner or something, had gone to bed around 2:30 in the evening, and he then entered the home and her alarm went off. And this guy, I don't know, the whole story here is just baffling because imagine if she didn't have an alarm. God, thank God she did, That could have just ended so much differently. And you look at the mugshot of the guy, he's just a little squirrely, wormy little fucker. She probably would have whipped his ass. But you don't know what kind of intruder he is. You don't know if he's got a gun or what. He didn't. But if it came down to like a battle of fisticuffs, she probably would have kicked his ass, man, and beat him up pretty good, which would have been very satisfying. But she was able to somehow get out of there, get in a car, drive away, and call 911. And when the cops got back there, the dumbass was still in the house. And they arrested him. They found all the stuff on him. They've charged him with attempted kidnapping, I'm sure, and breaking and entering and burglary or whatever else. I hope they heap the charges on this guy, and he goes to jail where he belongs. And I hope some giant inmate named Bubba becomes just as obsessed with his butthole as he was with Sonia Deville. I hope he gets absolutely plowed in the showers repeatedly. What a terrible, oh my God. It's frustrating because it's a really good example of how obsessive fans can get. And this is a very big problem amongst male wrestling fans. And I see it all the time. I can see it from my own eyes on social media, because there's so many awkward and just guys that don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to engage in conversation. They don't know how to properly socialize, and they're weird. They have no concept of boundaries. We've seen those pictures, the famous one of Becky Lynch and that big fat asshole grabbing around her and just basically hugging her and squeezing her. Could you imagine doing something like that to someone? I can't believe Becky didn't punch him in the face. There's a bunch of other ones too where he's doing the same thing to Alexa Bliss. One guy's basically grabbing Paige's tits in another picture. How do these guys not know that shit is not okay? How do you not understand the concept of boundaries? And I think that's the biggest problem with a lot of these fans is I'd hate to use this word, but they're pathetic. They're just pathetic. Losers with no idea how to properly communicate and the right and wrong things to say. And a lot of times that can turn obsessive. It's one thing just to not be able to function socially. That's fine. At the end of the day, that's harmless. But when you really just live in a fictional reality instead of a real one, that's when it can borderline and turn into something psychotic like this guy did. And you go to his Twitter page, and it's basically just a shrine to Sonia Deville. Everything is just retweeting her and sending her love and this and that. And that's something that I can see, and we can all see with our own eyes. We're all cool in here. 170 of us in here. We ain't crazy. But we see the same type of stuff on social media when guys comment on a female wrestler's post. Oh, you look beautiful, sweetie. And shit like that. God damn. Have some respect for yourself. It's like they have no respect for themselves at all. They have no confidence at all. I'm no dating Don Juan, but I know one thing about women. They like confidence. They don't like cockiness. There's a big difference between cocky and confidence. If you're cocky, I'm sure you can find plenty of people in entertainment, plenty of celebrities, and I'm sure a couple of YouTubers are like this too, constantly bragging about themselves. Oh, I'm so great. That's not confidence. That's obnoxious cockiness. Be confident in yourself and just when you talk like a human fucking being. Have normal conversations. Don't be weird. Why does any of this need to be said? Why is it so hard I understand, if you're a dork in high school, it's not your fault, no big deal. But you still have to live in reality, and you have to understand what's right, what's wrong, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. And these fans just have no filters. Shout out to Barry, who sent me, I didn't even know this, but Mia Yim's YouTube channel. She does videos where she just reads all the creepy ass DMs. People just sending them dick pics. Oh, I like your feet. Here's my dick. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with these people? And I know I'm not saying it's not just men. Women can be bad too. I know, but I'm talking about men right now. And especially the male wrestling fans. I've been to wrestling shows. I've seen, these two guys that look like fucking Nyla Rose and Shrek fucked and had a baby, and they're completely physically grotesque, and they stink, and they smell like Parmesan cheese and a Buick, as Bobby Heenan would say. And, and they got 4.5 teeth or whatever. But if they're nice, then you're nice. Looks aren't everything. If you're a nice, kind, sweet person, women will respond to that. No matter what you look like. I mean, the good women will anyway. They appreciate that stuff, not being a dickbag, not being weird, not being awkward, not being inappropriate, which is what so many of them are, especially with the DMs and the Twitter comments and shit like that. And, and all these, get better, sweetie, and shit like that. It's like they actually think that these women are a part of their lives, and they get all this in their head. And that's when, depending on who it is and what kind of mental capacity they are in, it tends to take that psychotic turn. And that's when you have people like this that start planning this shit. They just start going nuts in the head. And now they're planning out this 8-month-long just scheme to break into somebody's house and kidnap them. Now, one thing one silver lining here is most people that try to do all this stuff aren't smart enough to do any real damage. This moron, I didn't even write his name down. I'm not going to give him any publicity. This moron spent 8 months planning this kidnapping, and he failed miserably. So what does that tell you about him? He's stupid. He found their house, but he broke in. If he has 8 months to prepare, don't you think he'd go a little bit further than that? Maybe bring, I don't know, bring more weapons. I hate to even say that, but he only brought, mace and duct tape and zip ties. Sonya could have probably disarmed him. If he brought a gun, that'd be one thing. So maybe his intent wasn't to murder. Maybe his intent was to kidnap. But you can only go so far with duct tape and mace, maybe you can put her in a trunk and drive away or whatever. But what was he going to do? What was his final plan? I don't even think I want to know, but what a dumbass. You plan all that time. You plan almost a year, to kidnap somebody, and you get in the house and the cops find you there. And what were you doing after she left? Like, the cops were called. I'm sure it took him a while to get there, and he was still in there? What's he doing, jerking off in the kitchen? So it's just scary, and it's just creepy, and just fucked up that this is the lengths that things can get taken to. And it's been a topic of conversation recently, too, in the past few weeks. Seth Rollins even released a video saying, don't come up and ask me about my fucking baby and shit. It's none of your business. I don't owe you anything. And he's right. I've always said that. Wrestlers don't owe you shit. Don't approach them at the airport. Don't follow them around. Don't stalk them anywhere. I can't tell you how many times, Daniel, if you're in the chat here listening, vouch for me here. We used to go to so many shows during the Attitude Era, and we would run into wrestlers all the time, but we would never be annoying. We would never approach them. We would sit right next to them in a Waffle House as they were eating, and we would never go up and bother them, where some fans have no filter. You can have a wrestler there trying to have dinner with his family. He's literally putting a bite of food into his mouth, and some asshole's like, "Will you sign my fucking autograph?" Just have some respect. Understand, what's appropriate, when you should approach somebody and when not to. And it's like they just don't care. They just don't care about anybody. They're in their own bubble. They're in their own universe. And they don't care who they bother or who they upset or who they annoy, as long as they get their dumbass Twitter picture so they can get their little dopamine flowing with a bunch of likes or get an autograph or something like that. It's not worth it. It's much better to be an adult. It's much better to be respectful and respect people's boundaries, their privacy, and things like that. And wrestling fans just don't do that. And whenever I saw wrestlers, I would only talk to them if I knew it was going to be okay. Running into Mick Foley at the gas station and him just hanging out, shooting the shit for us a little while. We didn't feel like we were annoying him. He seemed happy to do it. But when I'm sitting behind Edge and Test at Waffle House and they're eating and they're trying to, fill up so they can get on the road and head to the next town because they have a grueling ass schedule, not the time to turn around and say, "Hey, you guys want to talk about fucking wrestling?" No. If anything else, just kind of give them a little nod. I was always the type of guy who was like, "Hey, good show tonight, guys. Really enjoyed it. Take care. Peace." Didn't ask for a picture. That's why I don't have any. Didn't ask for an autograph because I knew I didn't want to be that guy. I used to live in Wilmington. I now live in Wilmington, North Carolina, which is a big film industry town. I live in San Diego now, in a really ritzy part of town. I see famous people all the time. Famous people, actors, the biggest athletes. I've seen Michael Jordan and Aaron Rodgers and LeBron James, and I had the whole entire Golden State Warriors team at my restaurant for a team dinner. I've met so many actresses and actors, and I never bother them for pictures. Because I am putting myself in their shoes, and if I was in their shoes, I wouldn't want to be asked that. Even though probably 50% of the time, they would have been glad to give it to me, I personally feel a little bit like uncomfortable doing it. So I sacrifice it. I'm like, you know what? I don't need the Facebook likes. I'm going to forego that, and just maybe I'll just have a fun story on the stream. But I'm not going to bother these people. I'm not going to just be that dude who's just got to get that picture on Facebook. I find that so filthy and so disgusting. I see people do it. When I'm around these people, I see other people, especially girls, coming up to me, "Oh, guys, I have a picture," just so they can put it right up on their social media. The very minute, the photo is snapped, 5 seconds later, it's on their Instagram post. I just think that type of, the way people are like that, it's disgusting. And I think we should all be better. And, it's one thing just to not understand the difference between when you should approach somebody and when not. That's minor. If you bother somebody at the airport, you just get chastised for that. Come on, do better, dude. It's the people that are taking this to such a degree where they're becoming obsessed and becoming psychotic and breaking into people's homes with God knows what kind of intentions. What this guy had planned to do to Sonia Deville, I have no idea. Don't want to know. But it was gnarly. And it's just incredibly frustrating that this particular fan base of this particular form of entertainment has got so many weird, creepy fuckers. There's another video going around on Twitter that a lot of people were commenting on. Did you see that big guy, just big guy in an AEW shirt? I'm hoping he's working us, and I hate it when people with 90 Twitter followers want to work people. But I hope that he's joking, but he went on this whole big rant about how women are two-faced and how they just cause fights and cause problems and they're the worst species in the world. And this is a guy that when you look at him, he ain't never going to be intimate with anything other than his computer and his hand and potentially an orange or grapefruit. That's it. And he's going to sit there and educate us on what women like, how women are, when 99.9% of the women on this planet wouldn't touch you with a 12-foot pole. Fuck you. Do better, guys. Shouldn't be that hard. How hard is it just to not be a obsessed, pathetic weirdo? Is that hard? I don't think so. You guys can do it. I don't have any pathetic, obsessed weirdos in the chat. You guys are all cool. Talking normal stuff, talking about wrestling. None of y'all are asking me for pictures of my feet. At least I hope not. Hey, K-Dog's Kennel, how you doing? But it's embarrassing. New one, you hit the nail right on the head. It's embarrassing. And I remember that from back in the day, man, going to wrestling shows all the time. I felt like I was surrounded by a bunch of crazy people, like I was like, man, I feel like I don't match or something. Like I'm a normal person with like a normal job who wears normal clothes and has normal friendships, and stuff like that. It's so bizarre to me. I just always kind of been turned off by it. And something like this always just pushes me over the edge, like my rage. Because I'd like to be in a cell with that guy for 5 minutes. He can have his mace and everything. I'll shove it right up his ass. But that's a disturbing level of obsession that is now threatening people's lives and stuff. Because everybody's information is accessible. If you want to find out where any WWE wrestler lives, you can if you dig a little. And that's when you have people hiding outside of people's houses and shit. And and Sonia Deville, by the way, is 26 years old. I cannot believe how young she is. I thought she was a bit older than that. I would have thought she was maybe 31 or 32 or something like that. At least that's what I saw in the police report. It listed her at 26. Not sure the accuracy there, but I was surprised to see that she was that young. But think about that. If you're a female celebrity, female wrestler, and you're young and you're in your 20s and you buy a house and you live there by yourself and you're not married or something, I'd be getting the best security system that money can buy. Otherwise, I'd be sleeping with one eye opened every night. So that makes me feel bad for them that wrestlers, and especially the females, have to live with some sort of a sense of fear because men are so obsessive and so pathetic that they could turn crazy and they could follow him around. And there could be a woman having a guy follow her for the past 5 months and she doesn't even know it. He's everywhere she goes, watching her every move. How scary is that? And that's a real thing. That is a real threat, and this just proves it. And, in the information age, when everybody lives in these little artificial realities on Twitter, some people live on social media. They don't even go out of the house. Everything they do is on social media. Everybody they interact with, every relationship they have is all on a computer screen. That's not healthy. And that's when you can kind of get that way, especially if you become really infatuated with one particular person, and that's where your mind goes. And, things just deteriorate to a point where you turn dangerous. And I have no sympathy for anybody that gets caught doing anything like this. I hope this guy is brutally ass-fucked in jail as hard as imaginably possible, to the points where his farts never make another noise again, because that's what he deserves. I hope he has a hell of a rough time, and I hope he doesn't get off easy, because at the end of the day, he didn't assault or kill anybody or even attempt to kill anybody, so I don't know how many charges they can throw at him. I would hope some sort of kidnapping charges, but with no gun or anything like that. It's not like, I don't know if attempted murder would really stick here. I don't know, but whatever happens, I hope he's staring down the barrel of many, many years in jail, and I hope he never sees the light of day again, because people like that are dangerous, and it makes you mad. It makes you so mad when you hear stuff like that. And I'm just glad that she's okay. That's the biggest thing we take away from this, is that she got out all right. It's the only thing when she tweeted out yesterday, thanked everybody for their support, thanked the sheriff's department there for getting there so fast and taking care of things, and thanked all the fans for the outpouring of love. And that was the only thing about that. My only response was, just glad you're okay. Don't care about anything else, is that you are alive right now, because That's scary. And she's got a big match. She's about to get her head shaved this Sunday. I fully expect Sonya to either be bald like Serena or a mohawk like Animal or something like that. So she's got a long week. She's got to deal with a home invasion, all that stress, all that panic. Then she's got to go into a big match at a pay-per-view, a hair match against Mandy Rose. And it's just a good thing that nothing happened to her. That would have been this would have been a very rough Raw to get through if we had to open up with a terrible news of Sonya Deville's demise or her being missing. You know, imagine that. Imagine just the panic and just everything that would be going on if we heard some horrible news like that in a year that's already so awful. You know, 2020 is shit, and if that would have happened, literally would have been the last thing we needed. So best of luck to Sonya Deville. We're all of us here on the channel are thrilled that you made it out of that alive and that you're okay. And if you're a wrestler, if you're anybody in the public eye at all, spend the money on a security system because it saved Sonya's life, or it could have saved Sonya's life. I still think she could have taken the prick, the wormy little bastard. I think she would have beat his ass. But just to be safe, it's a good thing that she had the alarm, because I shudder to think what could have been and what kind of news we would be reading today had the alarm, number one, not existed, or number two, gone off. Maybe it wasn't armed. Maybe she forgot to arm it before she went to bed. Something like that. So that's smart. I'm glad that she had the foresight to do that. If I'm going to buy a house, I need to secure it. So if you're living in a house right now without any security and you're a wrestler, get security, because it might save your life. Disappointing, man. Disappointing. I was working yesterday, but I was pretty damn mad about it. I made a couple of tweets about it, and I was like, dudes, just don't be pathetic. How hard is that? It's not hard. It's so easy to not be pathetic. It should take negative effort, but it seems to be an impossibility for certain types of fans, and yeah, F that guy. The hell with him. Oh, yeah, I saw Xavier passing away. Xavier's he's just a little bit younger than me, man. That was really sad to hear. He is a veteran. Was he the first champ or the second champ? He was one of the first ever champions. He had a lot of love and support yesterday on social media. There has been no cause of death yet for him, or at least as of yesterday. I haven't been online to read anything today. So I'm a little worried about what that's going to be when that comes out. But all in all, it's very sad. And everybody reached out on social media and said something nice about the guy yesterday. That was kind of nice to see, but it's a shame we lost another one. Another one way too young. Another one in their 40s. Oh, wow. You said Eric Bischoff has had a fan come to his house, too. And we saw the video. We saw like a photo a couple months back, right? Didn't somebody go to Arn Anderson's house and knock on his door, and he actually signed the autograph? That's another good example. Don't knock on people's doors. How do you have to be told not to do that? What in your mind makes you think that that's acceptable, that that's okay to go up to somebody, knock on their door, and interrupt their personal life so your dumb ass can get an autograph to what? Sell on eBay? Oh, my God. The gall, the balls on these fans. Jesus, man, I would never in a million years do that. Ever. Common sense, you know? Huh, right on. Yeah, exactly. Just don't get full sale security. We don't want that. Retribution seems like they can get in anywhere. Anywhere. Oh, that's cool, Devlin. You're going to show up at his house? I'll go with you, man. Oh, yeah, you thought maybe Xavier Woods. Well, either way, that would have been just sucks when anybody dies. Xavier, I think, is doing pretty good, though. He's just chilling, playing his video games, rehabbing his knee. I'm glad that he's got the time off, man. Allows Big E to go out and do his thing a little bit in singles, and Kofi will probably be back before Xavier, but Xavier's awesome. I kind of did, too. I thought the whole Thunderdome thing was going to be like a pay-per-view or a concept, or, you know, maybe think of like Raw Underground. I didn't know what to make of that, but turns out that it's just going to be the big set, the big dome and the LED screens and all of that. Should be interesting. I'm really interested to see what that looks like on Friday, which sucks. I have to work. So you guys, again, like every Friday, since I'll be at work, I want you to give me SmackDown updates and let me know if CM Punk comes back. CM Punk's been tweeting a little bit. You see, he's been mentioning Retribution a couple of times, so he's probably just playing into this, making us think. He's the one guy, I think that, you know, we say this about everything. Everything would be better with fans. Sometimes people are like, oh, it'd be much better if they did that with fans. Well, every situation would be like that. But there's one, I think, above all else and there's one thing that wrestling absolutely has to hold off on. And if CM Punk ever is going to come back to wrestling, do it when there's an audience. That is just a pop that I want to experience. I don't want, after all these years, his return to come back and be wasted in the Performance Center or the Amway Center or in Thunderdome or something like that. I need that in front of an audience. So I don't think CM Punk is behind Retribution, but I think it would suck if he was, because so far Retribution's been kind of cheesy. Like everything they've done has been silly. It hasn't even, like, a couple times it was good, but for the most part, it's mostly just made you laugh, made you eye roll, made you cringe a little bit. It's not something that I think CM Punk's better than that, to be honest. So I think he can do better, and I really hope it's not him. I don't know, Trey. I feel like the door is closing. The window is closing on a Rock in-ring return. I thought he would wrestle at WrestleMania 30. I thought he would wrestle at 31. I thought he would wrestle at 32. And he never did. And year by year went by, and he never got back in the ring. And now he's, 50 years old? I mean, Jericho's 50, and The Rock's in a lot better shape than Jericho. And I think The Rock can still have a match. But, we're now 7 years removed from that WrestleMania 29 match. Almost 8. So that's a long time. I don't know what he could really do in the ring. But if he came back and had a match with somebody, Randy Orton would be an excellent choice, because they never really mixed it up. They touched, they crossed paths a little bit at WrestleMania 20, right, in the tag. But other than that, they never really got to set up any sort of big program with them. I think they might have exchanged some blows on Monday Night Raw as well, but an actual match would be pretty good. But I think if Rock comes back, he'll work Roman. That's just what it feels like to me. I think it'll be Roman. All right, pretty decent audience in here. You guys smash a thumbs up for me. I would appreciate it. We'll hang out for a little bit more and see what else there is to talk about. And then I'm going to bail out and cook some dinner, because I got to be back up here 3 more times between now and Sunday. Mike, we had this whole conversation last week. It was funny. I was trying to guess in my head how many title wins Orton had, and I guessed 13, and apparently I'm right. Can't remember the breakdown. I want to say it's 10 WWE, 3 World Heavyweight titles, something like that. Or maybe that was Cena. But I think Orton's got 13. Cena's got 16. I have no idea the final count and how many people are going to be in Retribution. I'm guessing it's going to be a lot more than 5. And I like how WWE is changing up the size of some of these guys. The only person in there that fans are pretty confident about is Vanessa Bourne, because they've recognized her. I have trouble recognizing anybody under their masks. On SmackDown last week, somebody threw a really familiar-looking spear, and I couldn't, in my head, think about who that might have been. Threw the spear a lot in the same way Lashley does. Lashley hits the spear and then kind of spins out of it type of thing, but I don't think the person on SmackDown was Lashley, but they threw the spear a very similar way, so I'm trying to think of wrestlers that use that move. I mean, I know a lot of them do. But other than that, I couldn't make heads or tails really of who anybody was. That's why I think that if it all ties in somehow with Ali and, and Apollo and Cedric even, and maybe even Samoa Joe, because Samoa Joe has got me thinking a lot based on some of the things he's been doing the past couple of weeks, and especially tonight on Raw, how he had all that information about the Zelina poisoning video, and Seth is confronting him about knowing about Ray and Dominic, all that stuff. I think that Joe, maybe he's the mastermind behind something, because when you look at it, maybe Samoa Joe could have an argument to want Retribution. A lot of fans, he had his moments on Raw. He won some good matches and stuff on TV when he was there, but for the most part, I don't think any of us felt like Joe reached what we would hope he would reach in WWE. Most of us pegged him as world champion, or one day being world champion, but eventually he runs into Roman and he runs into Brock, and and then he got hurt a lot of times, which isn't really WWE's fault. He was kind of injury prone there. So, maybe his character can say, I was the baddest man in this company and you guys never gave me an opportunity, or something like that. So, he'd be a great guy on the stick. He'd be a great leader there, a great mouthpiece for that faction. Especially if it, he'd be a lot better, I think, than Brody Lee would be, and is the head of the Dark Order. I think Joe would be great there. So I'm kind of hoping that something like that all happens, and it's not just a bunch of developmental guys. There's got to be some faces that we recognize in there, and we'll see. See how it goes. I don't know. Yeah, the new one, The Rock missed out on some great matches. Would have loved to get Rock and Shawn. Would have loved to get Rock and Orton. Ironically, though, we got Rock and Brett. We got Rock and Owen. Owen beat The Rock for the Intercontinental title, actually. And there was even a match on Raw in 97, Bret Hart versus The Rock. We actually did get that. Oh, my God. Last week, too. I put it on Twitter. Blew my mind. Just watching some random wrestling with my girlfriend. We're surfing around the network. Decided to turn on Primetime Wrestling from 1987. I pull up an August episode. It's like August 30th, something like that. And there is a 6-man elimination tag. Now, keep in mind what time this is. We didn't see a whole lot of elimination tags back then. This is August of 87, just ahead, a few months ahead of the very first ever Survivor Series. And they're doing a 6-man elimination. It's the Hart Foundation and Honky Tonk Man versus Jake Roberts, Tito Santana, and Bruno Sammartino. I had no idea, even though I watched Primetime Wrestling every single week religiously as a kid, and I did all throughout 1987 as well. I had no recollection of that match. Don't even remember it happening. But Brett and Bruno actually were in the ring together and exchanged some offense a little bit. That was crazy. Blew my mind. And it happened on TV, and somehow I completely forgot about it. So that's the first time I can ever remember, or it's the only time I can think of Brett and Bruno being in the ring at the same time. And Bruno being in the ring in late 87, that had to be one of his last matches, at least in WWE. You know, because by the time 88 rolled around, I think he was out of there, and he started having that, fallout with them and stuff. So, or maybe mid-88 or something like that. It'd be about a year later. He'd be completely pretty much absent from the company. So he's in the ring there, mixing it up with guys like Bret Hart. And given the fact that it was an elimination match, made me wonder if maybe it was a trial run for the Survivor Series. Maybe they were doing some of those matches on live events to practice, much like how they did the Royal Rumble concept prior to it moving to pay-per-view. And how even Brett and Shawn even had a nice little walkthrough exhibition of what a ladder match would be before the ladder match really became a thing. Maybe wonder if that's what they were practicing for, was Survivor Series that would be coming up in just like 3 months after that. So interesting match. If you want a little hidden gem, go check that out on the WWE Network. The only thing that sucked about that particular Primetime Wrestling is that Bobby Heenan was absent for it, and Lord Alfred filled in for him. And Lord Alfred, he's like everybody's grandma, He's not the heel that he was back in England back in the day. He's just like everybody's like little old grandma. He says the dumbest, little cheesiest things, and he really hurt the show. Bobby Heenan would have been much better there with Gorilla, but that match kind of blew my mind a bit. Thought I'd share that with you too. All right, we're closing in on 2 hours here, so I'm going to be getting out of here in just a couple of minutes. Where are we at? Let me get my mouse back so I can read. Oh, yeah, Bruno wrestled, he wrestled a few times. Like, he wrestled Savage. I remember him and Savage had a match in, like, 86, and he would get in the ring every now and then, a lot of times in Madison Square Garden, too, and a lot of tag team matches. But I do remember he mixed it up with Roddy Piper as well. That might have been, like, 85. They got into a little brawl on, like, a Piper Spitz segment. He worked, I think, a one-on-one match with Randy Savage, which is another hidden gem, and he used to, every now and then, get in the ring. I think he had a couple of tags with his son, David. David worked WrestleMania 1 against Beefcake, and they were trying to make David like, the heir to the throne, but that was clearly not going to work. David got himself fired. There was a match he had. He didn't cooperate in the match. I think he, I forgot who he was wrestling. It was a big guy, and I think he submitted like 5 seconds into the match. Just like gave up and like walked away, and I think they fired him for that. So some sort of weird story. You can look it up online, the story with David Sammartino. But yeah, Bruno would get in the ring and wrestle during the 80s here and there, and it wasn't as uncommon as you would think, especially in like 83, 84, 85, 86 and stuff like that. He was semi-frequent, but he wasn't anywhere near, like the world title in those days. He was just coming in as an attraction because people still remembered. Bruno in the 80s would be the equivalent of like, hell, it's even more than that. I'd say it'd be the equivalent of like what The Rock or Austin are to us as fans, but not even. They're even further back than that. Bruno was only, 10 years removed from his title days, when he was working some of those matches where we're about 20 years away from Austin and Rock being in their heyday. So, fans still remembered him. Fans still appreciated the legend that he was. And getting in there in the 80s still drew a reaction, especially if they were in the Garden. Now, the match I referred to, the Elimination Tag, was in Boston Garden. But whenever Bruno would work MSG, holy shit. Because that guy was over like Rover back in the day. No music, no pyro, no nothing. He would just walk out to the ring. Fans would shit themselves. Man, wrestling was different back in the day. Nope. Zane Goliah, I said that on Twitter. Meltzer had gone and said something like virtually everybody in WWE has contacted AEW to see what they can get maybe one day in the future about potentially working together. That is virtually bullshit. That's, I mean, I like Meltzer. I don't have the same hate for him that so many other people do, and a lot of people in wrestling, like Bruce Pritchard and others, like, and Eric Bischoff, just detest Meltzer. I think he offers a service. He does editorialize a lot in his Observer. He always has, but he does, he can provide some credible news every now and then. But unfortunately, Dave is so AEW, that he's just kind of making shit up in his head. That comment that he made and that statement would have been so much more credible if instead of saying virtually everybody, he just said a bunch, because that is probably true. I bet you there are a bunch of WWE wrestlers who have contacted AEW and just said, hey, my contract's up in a year. What do you think? Is it worth me, not signing? Maybe I can come to you, or whatever they do when they contact somebody. I bet you there have been a whole lot of WWE wrestlers to do that. But this idea that everybody except Roman Reigns did, anybody want to tweet Becky Lynch? Let's ask Becky. Hey, Becky, what did AEW say when you called them up and asked if you could work for them? What'd they tell you? You think Becky Lynch is calling them up? Do you think Seth Rollins is calling up AEW? You think Charlotte is calling AEW? No. There are still plenty and plenty of wrestlers in WWE that are perfectly happy with their spot and the money they make. Randy Orton is another guy. So many people in the company that I'm sure have no interest whatsoever in AEW. I don't think Braun wants to go there. He was one of the guys that discredited the statement, I think, on Instagram. He blocked me on Twitter because I got pissed at him about his Kia comment during the pandemic when he told all of us to get better jobs if we didn't like the pandemic costing us our employment. But on Instagram, he said that's basically bullshit. There's probably a whole bunch of wrestlers that would come out and say that. I'm sure there are plenty of wrestlers that would love to go there if they could, and that's when Dave makes the mistake of saying something that's actually kind of right, but he's so up the ass of AEW, he has to embellish it to where he says, everybody except Roman Reigns. Bullshit. There's no way that's true. That is so ridiculously full of shit, even though you have a company in WWE where there's a ton of disgruntled wrestlers there. To say something that ridiculous, that makes you look like just an AEW mark, and it's just not true when there is some truth to it, because that's all he had to say. He should have just said, yeah, a whole bunch of people that have contacted AEW, because that's probably true. But all of them? Come on, Dave. Come on now. I don't know. Is he always being a troll, though? Maybe he is, but I feel like he believes that, though. I think to troll, you're saying something that is untrue just to mess with people, but I don't see it in this. I feel like he actually believes that or something, or that's what he wants us to believe. But we know that's bullshit, man. Come on, Dave. Not true, but he is definitely right. I bet you there's a ton. I bet you there's a whole bunch of wrestlers that would love nothing more than to get out of that broken system in WWE and go somewhere where you can grow and creatively and do your own thing and actually be a wrestler. I'd be willing to bet there's about 50 wrestlers in WWE that would like to go there, but that's not everybody. And it's just a lie, just a bold-faced lie. That's all. But I like Dave. Met him on the cruise, took a picture with him. He's a good guy. And I don't hate him the way everybody else does, but stuff like that's just stupid. You know what I mean? Why would you say that? Yeah, Brian trolls. He likes it, though. Oh, good. Devlin, you're cooking dinner as well? Yeah, me too. I need to make a steak. That's what I'm cooking here. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here now and do that and start resting up for this big week of wrestling. So just as a reminder, this coming Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Is that right? Yeah. 8 p.m. Eastern time, I'll be up here doing a live TakeOver and SummerSlam predictions video, or live stream. We'll hang out for an hour, predict both cards, discuss some of the potential possibilities we could see, and we'll probably go way beyond just match predictions. We'll probably be talking about scenarios and swerves, because SummerSlam is telling us we're not going to see it coming, so damn it, there better be something on there that we don't see coming. So we'll talk about all those possibilities on Thursday, and then Saturday night after TakeOver goes off the air, join us live on YouTube for a review. Same thing on Sunday, and same thing a week from today on Monday. So get ready for a whole lot of Greg up in your life. Thanks for hanging out tonight, guys. I appreciate it. Was somewhat happy with the audience, although Monday Night Raw reviews haven't been that great lately. On your way out the door, it'd be great if you could smash that thumbs up button for me as well. I appreciate you being here, Devlin and Mike and Trey and everybody else who hung out, participated, super chatted, all that good stuff. You guys have a great rest of your week, and I will catch you on Thursday. Y'all be good. Peace.